Welcome to Talkin Tires, the podcast that delves deep into the world of tires. Join us as we explore everything from the science behind the manufacturing to the latest innovations in tire recycling. Our aim is to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of tires, including how they work, how to maintain them, and how to dispose of them responsibly. Whether you're a seasoned mechanic, curious car enthusiast, or an avid recycler, Talkin Tires is the perfect podcast for anyone who wants to learn about the essential component of the modern vehicle and heavy equipment. So buckle up and join us for an informative and engaging journey into the world of tires. All right, welcome to another episode of Talkin Tires. I'm your host, Craig Hunter, president of Tire Reclaim, and I'm here with Dan Chetterbock of Rock Springs, Wyoming. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks.
I really appreciate you making the trip. So, confession time. This is actually take two.
Yeah.
So where we met was at the Wyoming Solid Waste Association conference, and
Right.
It was an honor to be there and to have you at my booth. And then we walked over and did a podcast, but I need to get a new sound guy because I'm the sound guy, and I had it all wrong. But you decided to take a trip. We
Yes.
invited you. You're here. I appreciate you coming out all the way from Rock
thanks
Springs,
for having me.
Green River, which we'll learn more about, right?
Yeah.
But I appreciate you coming out, and now we get to do our podcast in this awesome room,
Yeah,
which
this
is
is
first
great.
time for Talkin Tires. So we're really excited about the new podcast booth. Thank you, Brett Huckart and team, Nick and Braven, everybody who put into this. Is really an awesome room. So
It
we're
is.
glad to have you.
Thanks.
And like I always say, we're here to talk about tires and everything tires, but it's time for me to get quiet and listen to how Dan got into Rock Springs Landfill and in the
Right.
position you're in. So
Sure.
can you go ahead and tell us your title? I think, is it director?
Yeah, general manager, director. That's,
Okay,
that's
I know
what our
there
board
wasn't
says
anything on the
slash,
website,
yeah.
which we're like that around here too.
Yeah.
I have the president, title, but that was just in the beginning because Tire Reclaims is just like, well, what is it? Well, go find that guy because
Yeah.
he's the president. He knows everything inside and out. And everybody,
Yep.
It was easy to just pass it off, right?
Yep.
So now I'm in that position. That's a role, but president doesn't really sum up everything that I do, and I'm sure the
Yeah.
director or manager doesn't sum up everything that you
It
do.
doesn't,
So,
no, yeah.
Yeah, so there's probably lots of hats, but let's turn back the clock a little
All
bit. I think you told me you were from Green River. Is that where you were born and raised?
So I was actually born and raised in Rock Springs.
Oh, so actually
lived
in the
there.
town of Rock
Yeah, in the
Springs.
town of Rock Springs. And then little 2002, got married and moved to Green River, so I bought a house there and then kind of been there ever since. But yeah, from the same area. Green River is about 12 miles outside of Rock Springs, so I don't know if you want to call it a suburb of a 30,000 person town, but
Right. So that's
what
where
it is.
you're riding bikes and
Yeah,
throwing
yeah.
rocks and
Heck yeah, yeah, in
Did
Rock
you
Springs.
always dream? No pun, Rock Springs, but yeah. any dreams as a kid to be a landfill director or
No,
you know,
not
just-
really. Yeah,
you
it just kind of fell into my lap. Out of high school, I moved to San Antonio for a quick bit and then moved back to Rock Springs. And my great-grandpa actually knew a guy in the engineering field. And at that time, the Rock Springs landfill was subcontracted out by the county to two different companies. So there was a construction company that ran it and then an engineering company that kind of ran the number side of things. So I got on with that engineering company and kind of started working for the scale house. And then it was a few years later, they decided to make a solid waste district. And then the county kind of took it over and then went to work for the county then. And then been on site. I think this is should be 28th year. And
Right.
then,
So you went right out of high school. Did
Yep.
you say right into the scale house?
Yep.
Okay.
Got right into the
Okay.
scale house on site. Yep. And then just started working there. Kind of got familiar with all the regulations and everything landfill as kind of part of the job. And
I don't want to date you or anything, but
Yeah.
you said 28 years. So I'm thinking back, were you handwriting tickets or
yes,
anything?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had this big scale interface. Luckily, we had a digital scale by the time I started. It wasn't
Okay.
like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
slide one that some of them have.
Yeah,
but
well, I've seen them around.
yeah, they're still around.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would handwrite any chargeable tickets, and then any other tickets or weights we brought in were just handwritten on a sheet of paper, and we'd kind of turn that in at the end of the
Right.
day. So
Yeah, so you've kind of watched that. So then I'm sure you came out of the scale house and they're like, hey, it's time for you to go run that backhoe. Or, hey, it's time
Yeah.
for you to
yeah, we had some cross training opportunities. So yeah, I did the loader a little bit and got proficient in that, and so yeah, learned a little bit of equipment, learned the compactor. So
right on.
Yeah.
we met again through, it's a SWANA representation, but the Solid Waste Association seems strong.
Yeah.
Every sector that I go in and some of these conferences, which, hats off to Wyoming and that conference in Cheyenne, Wyoming for, I want to say the acronym right, but I won't say it right, but it's the Wyoming Solid Waste and Recycling Association.
That's correct. Right? Yeah, we just call it WSRA.
WSRA. Okay, yeah, no, that works.
Makes it
so
easy.
WSRA conference was fantastic in
Yes.
Cheyenne. Great events, one after another. We have actually it's not the event that we have booths and things here in the fall for Idaho Solid Waste Association for SWANA representation, the Beaver chapter. And here is actually tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
And tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, and they actually do tours of different facilities in the fall.
Oh,
and then in the spring,
cool.
they do the big, conference with all the booths and everything. But anyway, they're actually going to come to our facility tomorrow afternoon. I'm super excited to have you guys. So we'll see you here.
That's going to be great.
I'll be able to report back on the next podcast. Could be 70 folks come to see us. It's supposed to rain. Great, right?
Yeah,
we'll figure
part
it out.
Part of the territory,
right?
right?
Good thing our facility's under tent, right? Which,
Yeah,
you'll see that. We haven't done a tour yet, but we'll get you out and we'll go do a tour after this, and you can see all of that. But anyway, back to so you're coming through the office. You get out in the yard.
Yep.
Now, obviously, I think you said you've been in your role not a long time.
Yeah.
So you spent some
new.
time around in different positions, and then the director spot came available, I take it?
Yeah. It was, it'll be 2 years ago this December. Our previous manager
you've been
retired.
in there a couple of years. So it's not that new, but it's still pretty fresh.
It's still kind of new. So just trying to implement some things and learning the other side of the business, accounting stuff and everything back end of landfill now. I started out on the front end, where the stuff happens, and now I'm in the back end. So
now you're seeing why it happens.
Exactly. Yeah. And trying to make stuff happen and, move forward and kind of be progressive. I've been really blessed with a great board. Like our board of directors is awesome. They're all about moving forward and putting a lot of new technology. So it seems like every time I come to them with a great idea or something new technological wise that can benefit the landfill, they're usually for it. So
and that support's huge.
Yeah, it is. It's way huge.
The conference is nice because you get to taste that a little bit, and you get to talk to what other guys are doing.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Was there anything that jumped out at the conference? Obviously we had our booth there, but you're a customer already we do tire shredding, green waste, and we're going to try some other things to shred this. But we've already been there. We're coming back again. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Appreciate your
thanks
work.
to your board for having, there's a lot of concept there. Like you have to really take some trust, and they trust you, and you're trusting us, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Was there other stuff? I know I really like the compactor talk. I went through one session where they talked about the levelness of the face and how important that is, because you start putting dirt on there. In one area, you might be 2 foot of dirt to cover the trash, and the other area you might be 3 inches, and just that consistency of having a solid compaction. Was it, things like that? Is that what you mean, that you can go to the board and be like, look, here's A, here's B, and here's why we need it to equal C?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So in times past under the previous manager, we had really no equipment to measure our, AUF. So, airspace utilization factor, sorry.
Thank you. No, I got
so that measures your density of the trash. So how many pounds per cubic yard of trash you're sticking in a cell, basically.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, what an engineer friend of mine told me is that, you can think of airspace as a big globe, like the world, and how much you can fit in that globe, is what you want. So the more you can fit in there, the better. He says, because it has value while it's air, but once it's filled, it has no more value, but you still have to pay for it. So we got to monitor that landfill. Got to go back. So the more we can stick in there, the better. So when we bought our new purpose-built landfill compactor, we got a TANA, and then we got some GPS equipment with it, so we could start measuring airspace and start, utilizing.
Was that through TANA as well, or is that a?
Yeah, they have. There's a separate company called Carlson, and they kind of team up with TANA a little bit, I think, and. Yeah, and it's been a great
Is that direct
tool.
satellite connection, or is it
it's just like a
Wi-Fi
GPS, and then they put so you have a solid GPS station at your site, and then it'll broadcast out to the compactor and go back.
Okay.
Yeah, but it uses all the satellites, and Yeah, it's been a fantastic tool. Great for our operators because they know when to get on and then get off the pile. When that thing turns green, they're off. So they're not over compacting, because when you over compact, you fluff, and then that's where you get those ridges and those bad areas. So as soon as it's green, they're off. Keeps the pile flat, and then maximizes your air.
Yeah, I remember when we went GPS with compost. That was my background, was in biological recycling and compost. When we started spreading with compost before, it was just like, just fling it out there, almost like it's manure. You just throw it out there type thing, and then you learn, well, if you go over the same spot too many times, compaction, you don't want it in farming and agriculture, right? So you only want to be on there one time or the least amount of times, right? And having that, and it's funny because it was green and red also, only also the reverse.
Right,
so, when it was green, then you went on it, and then it turned red to don't go on there again.
Exactly.
So, but I totally get that. So a lot of support in that area. So technologically, which is funny coming from handwriting tickets, right?
Sure,
Now you're trying to push forward a satellite connection that tells you, which I envision just all of your trash, rising, but you being able to look at that. How cool is that?
It's way cool. And it's been a great tool. Even, a lot of my operators are seasoned. I've got a guy that's been there as long as I have, and then another one 10, and then we have a new operator, and just showing them the difference. So we switched our practice too. So they were pushing uphill and kind of compacting on a slope, which you only get about half the weight of your machine. So you're paying for 90,000 pounds. So you want to get that whole weight. So we switched to where we now just make a flat pile, and then we build that up in tiers. And so that flat pile gets you a good compaction. And with that GPS, you can kind of show your operators that. So you can go back and put the 3D on and say, hey, when we buried on that slope, look, it's red. We're not achieving our full compaction. But when we're burying on that flat area, it's green, and then we're getting great compaction. So it's been a great tool.
Yeah, other things like you can see where maybe tires or mattresses might have been, or furniture.
Definitely, that's a great point, because we were getting great numbers. We were getting like 1,300 and 1,500 pounds per cubic yard every month, and then we had 1 month of 900. And the one operator he was mad because it's kind of made a competition now.
I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
It becomes like a video game almost. It really does. I love that stuff.
But what had happened is we got it in a bunch of HDPE pipe, which was very hard to handle. It doesn't squish. It rolls around. It pushes everywhere. It's like you're on an ice skate.
But he knew.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what it was.
So we ended up having to bury that, but you could not get any compaction. So it was like 900, pounds per cubic yard that month. But he was all mad. He's like,
just put an asterisk next to that month.
Exactly.
He can still have his bonus.
You're good. But we were able to kind of show the board where their money went to with that too. We could say, hey, look over in this area where it's red. That's where the pipe is, and that's how it affects. So this is how mattresses affect. This is how hard.
And we charged X amount for that.
Exactly.
And we didn't do as well as this over here that compacted at this.
Sure.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's really good tracking.
Yeah, so it shows you your value, shows you your airspace. So it's the GPS. Every time we get somebody to the site to kind of see how it works, or when I talk to somebody about getting a new compactor, I always tell them, get that GPS too, because it's an invaluable tool.
Yeah. You don't want to do one without the other.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah, because it just shows you your value. It's awesome.
And it gives you something to go back,
Sure.
Here's my report, because you obviously have to go attest for that $2 million purchase.
Oh, heck yeah, you do.
Yeah.
When you
that's
buy
real,
that,
right?
It is. And then you want to show that value.
Not to take a shameless plug, but obviously tires were an issue.
They were.
Can we talk about that?
Heck
how did that? Obviously, compaction is a thing, because it's still legal to bury whole tires in Wyoming.
Is. Yeah.
And you pay me to come and shred them too. Yeah. We actually shred to like a 72% reduction in volume. We're only required 65% in the state of Idaho. But you don't have to do that.
Right.
So why do you?
Oh, I'll tell you why. We bury them. We used to bury them, and you could go around to some of our old tire pit sites from the 80s or the 90s, and you can see they still float up every now and then. I mean, even with final cover on that area, they'll push through because they don't compact. They're terrible. They're just.
And they creep or walk or
they float.
Float.
We call them gravestones.
I've heard everything.
And we get gravestones out there. I mean, they'll just pop up. So what we were doing before, you just dig a pit, you throw all the tires in the pit, and then you bury them. And then we got to a place in our landfill now, and we're running out of room for tires, so we needed a solution. Okay, we can keep burying them and then just stop taking them and have everybody ship them off to somewhere else. or we can come up with a solution and keep taking them and then do something with them. So that was my big interest in your company, your willingness to shred them, because what shredding them does now is if we still do have to bury them, they become compactable. So right now I have an amendment in our permit where we can use them as alternative daily cover. So we can cover our dead animals with them. We can cover our trash with them. We can just use them as long as we, go over with a layer of dirt every 30 days. But they become compactable and they no longer float, which
that's what you're after, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Or you turn them into some type of commodity too, which would be awesome too, because I know there's a lot of places.
Which we're about
in
to
the
get
US.
into that. You and I. I'm gonna help
great.
you guys on that, and that's the beauty of Tara. Which it might have been cold calling from Tara that reached out to your landfill. Which shout out to Tara, because her title is a diversion specialist.
Yeah.
So for Tire Reclaim, her being a diversion specialist, contacting you, shredding is the first step.
Yeah.
And then that's when really the work goes in to go and find you an outlet.
Yeah.
And I can't, speak on it yet, and nothing's ever done
Right.
until you carry it across the goal line and clicks all zeros, right? Then it's a done deal. But until then, we'll talk about it. Maybe I'll get you back for part 2 of this episode of podcast. We can go into it some more. Or maybe I'll come out there, next year for the Wyoming conference, something like that. Yeah. But having said that, so now you're there. You have whole tires that you're being paid to take them.
Right.
And so now you're trying to look at direction of what do I do with these tires?
Sure.
It's obviously easy to throw them in a hole.
It is.
But what you're telling me is it's not necessarily cheaper.
Right.
Because you start doing the airspace and you're literally, valuing your airspace against purchases of the compactor and this.
Sure.
So you can do the same thing with the shredder if you compare the 65% volume, right, of just making shred.
Yeah.
Not to mention the alternative daily cover savings, things like that. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
And then the green waste were there already, right? So
I might as well shred that.
Machines on the ground. Let's get that knocked down.
And it does a great job with that too, because you guys did some of that for me last year, and it really chews through that, makes it nice to put it in compost. So
and it's really while you're here type thing. While you're here, you can do that, and then the mattresses, and we haven't really gotten into too much municipal trash.
No,
but I could see that someday. I mean, gosh, if a guy's really after our airspace.
Yeah.
We've just always been worried that we'd be changing more teeth and things, missing more.
Right.
So it's, I'll give you an example. In a semi tire, there was a cylinder head, like a small block Chevy or something. Yeah. How are you going to see that?
No,
right?
you ain't.
So he's grabbing and putting in, it's buried in that tire, and he drops it in there and rips a couple of teeth off. Expensive breakdown.
Sure.
Really hard to prevent.
Yeah.
When you take that into trash and what could possibly be in there? I mean, we test with magnets and things, but for the most part, no. So it could get really expensive really quick.
It can,
So we haven't really went down that avenue, but it could be someday, if you're set up for that and you have some sort of process. But anyway, and then the other one we saw was mattresses. Really big for our machine, and obviously for
I know you have a big
reason.
outlet. Yeah, because we divert them now and send them to a place in Salt Lake City that 100% recycles them. But I know if you got with some people that don't have that opportunity, that can stockpile their mattresses,
it's a clever name. What is it?
Springback.
Springback, yeah. And so I started doing some research on that, and Tara and I are working on that as well. For
great
Idaho.
guy there. Jeff, fantastic human being.
That's
great to deal with.
Oh, good to know.
So
maybe an introduction then.
Yeah, I
we
will.
can learn
Next
about
year,
it. Maybe he needs shredding. I have no idea. That's what I'd love.
He might.
Networking. That's what it's all about. It's like he might say, "Oh gosh, help."
Because I know. They do the foam and they do the metal. So and then they probably have to shred it there. I don't know.
And there's a cross belt magnet. I don't think I have a picture of the machine, but there's a cross belt magnet on the machine that we can pull steel off and recover. Off of the mattresses all day long.
They demoed a Tana shredder similar to yours when we bought the compactor, and I was amazed at how much metal that belt took off. I mean, we had a good pile.
And there's a lot of handling involved in that, and it's a good metals season, it might be profitable. Other times might not. So when you're doing ADC, you just kind of make that call. Do I want to kick that off to the side and throw it in a bin and recycle it? Metal's good right now. Let's do that. It'll pay for it and it'll make us a little money. But it's fun to learn the different ways of utilizing tools, right? So And it's good to know that. So you obviously have to present these things to your board, and they see it, right? And then we're coming back again, so that's more confirmation. You know, as a guy just trying to move all these pieces, you really just look for confirmation.
You do
consistently, like, okay, you know, these guys that have been in retire recycling they've been doing it for 30 years. They came and visited. They said, oh, that's a great way to do that. Oh, I really like the way you're doing it. Just little confirmations, like,
sure,
we don't know. We're 4 years in, you know, we're learning this, we're learning that. We're doing things that no one has ever done before.
Right. It makes
Turns
a big
out some
difference.
folks have done it, but just they've done this part and this part, never all together. Like and again, I can talk more about that later. I'm learning in the tire industry that you have to be careful what you talk about, but we'll get, you know, where we'll do a podcast on what that next stage is all about and closing the loop on sustainability and, you know, circular economy and recycling for Idaho. But, what else would you? I mean, you probably got some shout outs. You know, you probably got some high level helpers that you all your drivers and operators and everybody on the site.
Fantastic. That's why I always tell people those are the guys that make me look good. I mean, you have to have.
You're here,
people. Right?
You're states away, right?
Right.
It's impossible without
them. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and they're seasoned enough where I can leave and go away like today and go visit a place and the place runs, you know, everything, everybody knows their job. They're good at their job. They're well trained. I mean, they're cross trained. All my guys can run every piece of equipment out there. So, fantastic.
Well, it comes from
bunch
somewhere.
Of
you know, I hope every once in a while you take a moment to give yourself a little arm pump. I know what it's like when you want to, you know, you just want you want to own that humility and just kind of, you know, but you're doing a great job. It's a fantastic facility, and
thanks.
We're glad to be partnered up with you, and we hope there's a lot more to come.
Oh yeah,
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about today?
No, I think I'm pretty good there.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we covered it pretty well on what you're doing there.
Yep.
You know, it's like overall you're saving the taxpayers money.
Definitely.
Right?
Yep.
And you're handling it with professional ideas and going to the conferences and coming to places like this where, believe it or not, you'll have someone listen to this podcast or watch it even, and that something will click, right? It's just, I've had guys come back to me and say, you know, I met a guy, he saw the podcast, and we talked for hours at a, you know, swim up bar in the Bahamas or something. You know, it's just, it won't be that. Like, we're not that big. You might get 1,000 views of this, but
you'd be surprised,
you put 1,000 people in one room, it's a pretty big group, you know, 1,000 views, you might get somebody that you know, needs your help. Or you know, and we're real big about always take the meeting, right? I learned that.
Yes.
Brett Eckhart took a meeting with me one day, and later it's become this great thing that we're able to build. And I've taken meetings with guys, just no real reason. Like, I'm not out to make money or just chatting, just like, let's advance what we're doing, you know, recycling and just trying to do the right thing. You know, I know you guys
networking in this industry is huge. I mean, that was the first WISRA conference I went to after I became manager. I mean, it did so much for me, just getting involved with people and knowing what was out there and what resources there were. Networking is huge. Like you said, always take the meeting because you never know what somebody else knows. Yeah. And I mean, we learn. That's what I really love about the WISRA conference is we learn off of each other. And everyone there is just really open-minded. They share, you know, nothing's guarded secret or anything.
That's great.
We can all, share landfill knowledge and, fantastic bunch of people.
Well, and we've got a call coming up soon. We've invited a lot of folks, been a lot of excitement for that. So we're going to do a Zoom call, kind of go over your region, some of those diversion opportunities that we talked about. You and I will actually have some conversations ahead of that. So
that'll work.
But until then, I really appreciate you coming by.
Yeah,
let's go get that tour. We'll show you our facility. And
sounds good.
Yeah, until next time.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks.
Thanks, man.